What is up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 54. Today we are talking about water.
Oh, yeah.
Water.
Water is important.
It is important.
But better yet, we are in our studio finally today.
Yes,
if you're watching this, you're seeing a new backdrop for us. It's been months of working on this. It doesn't look like much, but it took forever.
It does. We completely redid our whole basement, actually. We ripped out carpet, put down new floors. This sign was like such a pain to get it set up and ready to go. So, but yeah, we're here and now it's awesome.
Yeah. And for those
worth the wait.
And for those that just listen to us, I'll just set the scene for you. We are sitting at a table again, but it's a very cool table. It's a live edge table with a giant neon sign behind us. So if you're listening, maybe pop on YouTube once in a while and check out the new studio and let us know what you think, because we're pretty excited about it.
And this table is from a local company in Boulder.
Yeah, too. And it's recycled ash wood, actually. So
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
What's the name of the company?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's like Colorado Mill and Steel or something like that. So I can link it below. But as well as who made the custom neon sign for us, because it's a beast. But yeah, hopefully you guys like the new studio. We are really enjoying it so far. Hopefully it's not too dark in here, but
no, I don't think it's too dark. I think it's a mood.
The glow of the sign, right?
Yeah, I like it. And now we can have guests. And so hopefully we'll have guests pretty soon. We actually have some in the works here. So.
We do, which will be really exciting. I'm really pumped to, step outside the normal way we do things on the podcast and
get some other
perspectives in here. Because I'm sure you guys might be tired of hearing from us. But today we are really excited to talk about, like Kendall said, water, and more importantly, the secrets of water, why it's so important, as well as what fluoridation is. If you don't know what that is, fluoride in water, and what, all the controversy around that, which today a lot of you might find this controversial because it is a controversial topic. The fluoride one is, as well as the pineal gland, and how fluoride affects that and what even is that exactly. So we'll be talking about all of that today. But before we get into things, I first wanted to thank all of our supporters out there for all the love and support. The past couple of weeks have been pretty hard for us personally, and we do appreciate all of your guys' patience and just love and support you've shown us. Yeah. We send it right back to you guys. And also I wanted to thank our patrons, because they were literally the ones that helped us fund the construction of all this, as well as all the equipment and everything. Seriously, guys, thank you guys so much. There's hundreds of you that have been patrons, maybe even over 1,000 now. So we really appreciate all of your support and allowing us to do this.
Yeah, because so many of our episodes are still getting demonetized. Like it happens almost every episode, or at least every other. A lot of the serial killer ones are, ones that are pushing it.
And conspiracies now is like a huge thing with YouTube. And they are not digging the conspiracies.
And we get thrown in the same bucket.
Even though Shane just did one, but
I know, but they'll let Shane do it.
Right. But it's Chuck E. Cheese conspiracy as well.
I know.
We're talking about literally how the government might be poisoning us through our water supplies.
That's true. Well, this is important shit, and you got to hear this. Like, it's crazy that they don't want this to be heard, this kind of stuff. But hopefully this episode doesn't get flagged. We'll see. We haven't had a great streak lately with that. But
thank you guys so much. And I wanted to do a Patron question because I haven't done one in a few episodes. But this one is from Brittany, longtime stellar patron, by the way. Thanks, Brittany. But this is a long but important personal question. She said, do you think the social child services and foster system is corrupt or is lack of funding? As a person that grew up in and out of foster homes, now that I'm older, I think about some of these foster parents and can't understand how they were ever approved. So many stories of strange disappearances and assaults on kids, and those stories are buried. Would you guys ever feel comfortable researching and doing a podcast about this system?
I absolutely would. I would love to do that. I know some things about it, but definitely not that much. But from what I have seen, there's so many cases that are just so disappointing of kids ending up in the wrong hands. And sometimes kids over and over and over, the same kids are getting bounced around. And I mean, the main problem here is that people are getting paid to have foster kids, which makes sense. Like, you're doing a really nice thing and taking a child in, and they have expenses. So, you get some money there, but it's not that much. And some people don't end up spending it towards that child at all, which is the sad reality of it. They get the child just to get the check. It's like becomes like a weird side job kind of.
Yeah. In basic terms, there's just not enough oversight on the program itself. I don't believe in any county, state, or even, I don't know what it's like in other countries or what their systems are like, but I know here in the US, it is very lax almost. And, obviously they try to do their best to put kids with good parents. But at the end of the day, there are people out there that are taking advantage of every government system or any sort of, system or resource like this. And I feel bad for a lot of foster kids that have to go through these traumatic experiences, because being a foster kid is already traumatic enough, so
for sure.
But on the flip side, I grew up knowing a foster family that had a bunch of foster kids, and they were awesome.
Yeah.
They lived on a farm and they treated all the kids like their own. I think they ended up adopting a few of the kids as well. And it was just a loving environment. And there's a lot of foster kids that do get lucky enough to find great families like that actually care and really do a good job parenting and trying to, love on you and support you. So
yeah, I have family friends that have been in foster, that have fostered kids and adopted and, did it for the right reasons, obviously, because they love children and want to help. But unfortunately, not everyone does. And yeah, a lot of things get missed.
But to answer your question, Brittany, I would absolutely want to do an episode about the foster system, the adoption system. I mean, there's a lot of interesting cases, kids getting snatched out of hospitals, things like that. That one where twins are being torn apart and separated. I think there's a lot of things that could be brought to the surface, brought to light more than it is that we could cover on the show, which is obviously something that we try to do with today's theme, about water and stuff. Was we're trying to take things and find topics that, a lot of people don't hear about because the mainstream media and other news sources don't really talk about it that much, because there is a lot of fucked up shit to it. But, there's not anybody really doing anything about it. And so it's kind of just sitting in the shadows. And so I like this opportunity to bring things like that to light so everybody can at least know about them. I think everybody has a right to know about the quality of these systems and such. So I think it's a really important topic. So we'll definitely have to do that.
I agree. We should do it.
But let's jump right into today's first news story. Scientists are hoping artificial intelligence can help identify and rescue child victims of sex trafficking via an app, and more than 1 million crowdsourced pictures of hotel rooms. So basically, did that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, I've actually heard of this app. It's really cool.
Hotels 50K is what it's called.
Because so much human trafficking ends up in hotel rooms, or they do pictures in hotel rooms or something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that's how they scan the background of like child pornography images and then match it with a hotel. And then sometimes you can match it with a room and basically connect it right with the guest that was there. Hopefully
that's the goal, because I think a lot of hotels are like that, where you can really identify where it's from because they kind of all have a theme and stuff. So it's really a smart idea. They launched this app in 2016. The goal is to try to collect photographs of 50,000 hotels around the world. Because obviously human trafficking, sex trafficking is a global issue. It's not just a US issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, honestly, one app is probably not going to solve the problem, but it's interesting that artificial intelligence could be a real big help here in processing all these images and data and things like that.
Well, it's just another example of the good and the bad side of anything, but artificial intelligence for sure, that there are things like this that, it's really, really useful and amazing that we can do this. And then, at the same time, it's a little freaky. It is
a little freaky. Yeah. But somebody's got to do it. And at the end of the day, if these private entities and companies are trying to help tackle a major problem, 4.5 million people are in sexual slavery around the world. That's an astonishing number. And honestly, it's probably far more than that. So if there's, a way that the ordinary person can help by just taking pictures of their hotel room or whatever and uploading it to an app where, artificial intelligence can then scan through all of those pictures that are uploaded and start making matches from, advertisements and things like that, wherever these human traffickers advertise, and try to start making rescues from it. That's the ultimate goal, is to rescue people that are stuck in, human trafficking. So I think it's really an important issue. Obviously, Kendall and I work with Thorne, and, they do a lot of these same types of things, probably work on the back end for these guys in some way, shape or form, helping them out. I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure I heard them talking about the idea for this or the technology of this before. So yeah, this is called Trafficking. Traffic with a K at the end.
Yeah. There you go. Sorry, I think I said it was Hotels 50K.
Yeah, no, Hotels 50K.
The app is actually called Traffic Cam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing related to this topic that I wanted to talk about that was really crazy, and honestly, I didn't see that much coverage of it, is more than 160 people were arrested in the Super Bowl human trafficking operation.
That's crazy.
A massive operation was underway right before the Super Bowl happened in Atlanta. A total of 169 people were arrested during an 11-day FBI-led human trafficking operation.
Wow.
It's honestly crazy. A bunch of different agencies were involved with it. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children were involved as well. And it was announced that they rescued 18 victims of human trafficking, including 9 juveniles and 9 adults.
It's insane.
Of the 169 arrests, 26 people were alleged traffickers and 34 suspects were allegedly people attempting to engage in sex acts with minors.
Oh, God.
The youngest victim they rescued was 14.
So why does this have anything to do with the Super Bowl? I'm confused.
Because the Super Bowl, it is like a huge business day for human traffickers, because all these people are flooding to this area in these hotels, and they can take advantage of that and get a ton of business that way.
So they got that many people in one day?
Over 11 days, they arrested that many people.
Oh,
169 arrests.
Time of the
so they were probably doing a sting on various hotels or one particular hotel and just grabbing people. And what's crazy about this is it happens so much, which is scary, that there's enough customers and people that want to engage, especially in sexual acts with minors, that they were able to nab 169 people. That's a lot of people. That
really is.
And what was even crazier is I ended up seeing, I think there was at least 1 or 2 Twitch streamers, like young guys, like 20 some year old dudes that got arrested, and they like got blown up on Twitter and social media because they literally identified who they arrested. And I'm pretty sure they were arrested for like trying to engage in sex acts with a minor. Don't quote me on that, but you can go Google it and see who the actual individuals were. But it's really crazy. It's people that we probably know, I mean, not us personally, but like,
it's
what I mean?
Yeah. It's not some like creepy guy somewhere in a different country. It's not more average people are involved in this shit than you think. Mm-hmm. Like people you wouldn't expect.
No, it's not all these like anonymous, nefarious individuals that, it's literally people that we are in contact with every day, even. Right. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting and wanted to bring that up because I don't think we talk about that enough. The other story that I have is not good news, unfortunately, but essentially the number of insects in our world are literally headed down a path to extinction. So scientists are reviewing this data and coming to the realization that we are literally being threatened with a catastrophic collapse of the nature's ecosystems.
Oh my God. That's really freaky.
Which people don't even realize what that means. And you forget about, an ecosystem and the food chain and how big it is, and how if one part of that gets taken out, the whole thing goes downhill. It's absolutely insane. So more than 40% of insect species are declining and a third are endangered.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize it was that many. I knew we had a major problem with bees because that's what everyone talks about, but I haven't heard. But I think bees, it's because it's a keystone species, correct?
Yeah. And it's moths, butterflies, things like that are going out too.
Okay.
And beetles. There's a ton of different insects that play a vital role in the ecosystem. And if they disappear, then no one's fulfilling that job. And a lot of plants rely on insects to pollinate them. Right. It's a chain reaction. Plants die. Animals are already on the decline.
Yeah.
So
animals that eat the plants can die.
Right. Exactly. It's falling at a 2.5% a year.
Oh my God.
Scientists are saying the planet is at the start of a 6th mass extinction in its history, with huge losses already reported in larger animals that are easier to study. But insects are by far the most varied and abundant animals.
Oh, this is so sad. This sucks because it's like, what the fuck?
It's like, what do you do though? What are we supposed to do? Can we even stop a 6th major extinction event? So basically they're saying, unless we change our ways of producing food, insects as a whole will go down the path of extinction, and we lose that. We don't get food. But they're actually saying that a main driver of the declines is particularly the heavy use of pesticides, which has gotten more and more popular, especially with needing to, create mass amounts of food. You do need pesticides to help keep the insects off,
Yeah. When you're making that much.
Which we'll talk about a little bit too, as far as pesticides getting into the water and stuff. But there's just all these factors that are playing into this next mass extinction event. And they're saying that literally it could be 50 years, only half left. And then up to 100 years, we may have none. So 100 years from now, there may be no insects on the earth.
That's honestly terrifying.
And that's the more I keep reading about these different things about, the environment and all these different studies that are being done. It's absolutely insane that we're not taking this more seriously than we are. We're literally sleeping on
we wouldn't even have
this whole issue
to make that. Like, I think people get so afraid of the idea of like someone's going to come to them and like make them get solar panels and force them to be vegan. And like, they're overwhelmed at how bad they are right now. Like how many things that we are currently fucking up our environment with our own lifestyles. It's hard to look at yourself. Yeah.
All of us are.
At the end of the day, pretty much everyone's like affecting it in some way. But if we approached it, I think in a more rational way, a more approachable way where we can work together with other people,
right?
Don't threaten everybody that you have to become a vegan, because most people are going to be like, oh my God, I'm not even going to listen to this, and just shut down. Like just changing the way we do completely eliminating factory farming, lowering the amount of meat we're consuming. I personally cut out red meat and pork, and that's been really good for me personally. I think finding your own, you've just cut down a ton just on the amount, just from me.
Meat in general. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that it's little steps.
Checking where it's from. Like, yeah, it's little steps. And
supporting good farms that do it right and do it the way that should be done. And as opposed to these big giant corporations that own all these factory farms, like you said. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, and another not just thing food.
Just thinking. Sorry, another just thought. You can get there's tons of like, in particular, there's an Etsy shop I just found. I can't remember the name of it, but if you type in like seed bomb on Etsy, there's like specific ones that are for bees or for certain bugs, and you can plant them in your yard and help the population that way. There's plenty of like bee specific plants that'll help their,
that stimulate thrive. The environment and stuff. Yeah.
So that's an idea too. But
I mean, it's hard. Endless ideas.
It feels very overwhelming. But until we start at least talking about it and making like small dents and in the way that human life has, what we've gotten used to, we're going to have to change, because this isn't going to go on like this forever. Like that's the reality staring us in the face, is if we keep ignoring it and we keep doing everything the same, we're going to end up with no planet.
Or an inhabitable one. I mean, the planet's never going to go away, but it's going to become inhabitable. Dead.
Let me just put it that way. So,
mass extinction. That's what that means.
It's really scary. So
all biological life on Earth ceases to exist. And, I don't want to sound like doomsday is coming or anything, but these scientists are literally like blaring it in our ears and in front of our faces with these studies that they're doing. And they're all coming back telling us very negative things about the direction that our ecosphere is headed. I mean, it's sad, because it's the one thing in this entire planet that we live on that we should be caring about, as opposed to any material possession we have, anything else that we need to survive. It's like, we should be looking at the planet, the air, the animals, everything that we need to sustain life, and especially the water as we'll talk about today. So it's like, I don't know, but it's like, what do you do when nobody else seems to be listening or paying attention? I mean, I don't know. It's other than talking about it. I think talking about it's a good step, and just getting the conversation started.
Yeah.
Talking to your friends, talking to your family about like, ask them if they fucking recycle. If you're not recycling.
And being like, I think being less on the attack about it.
Yeah. Like, so aggressive.
It's awesome if you're like passionate about the environment and want people to like look at what they're, look at their lives and see where they can make changes. But like, if you like shame them into doing it, it's not going to go very fucking well. So
no, I mean,
and I know a lot of people do that. So
Oh yeah.
I think that's a good place to start too.
It's the same thing with politics too. It's like, we got to stop being so aggressive with one another, listen. And
understand that we are at this place in our world because we've done this for so long. Like, this is the way we have things set up.
The past 200 years,
they're stubborn. They're going to be stuck to their ways.
We're creatures of habit, right?
We can't just like be angry at people for being raised a certain way or, whatever.
Yeah. I think the only thing to do is have open and honest conversation about it and be just open-minded about everything, both sides, and try to figure it out together, because at the end of the day, all we have is each other. And if, it's not going to end well for any of us if we can't get along and figure some shit out, because there's not going to be anything left to figure out.
Agreed.
Except for those rich enough to blast off to another planet. But anyways, let's get into talking about water here. But first, I just want to thank our first sponsor today, Quip. One of the most important things we do for our health every day is brushing our teeth, yet most of us don't do it properly, me included. Quip is a better electric toothbrush created by dentists and designers. Quip was designed to make brushing your teeth more simple, affordable, and even enjoyable. So Quip, we love Quip. We've been using it for months now. And I must say, like, my mouth feels cleaner because I've started using Quip. And I had an electric toothbrush before, but I feel like this one just does like a perfect job.
Yeah. And it's really convenient that it sends you, like, they send you new brush heads. And because people always forget to put those on. Yeah. And they don't charge much for them. It's like, $5 every 3 months. That's so much better than, some of those, like
the Oral-B brushes and stuff. Yeah. No, I know it's like really convenient. And you can always get a great clean every time you use it because you got a 2-minute timer. So it's like dentist recommended. So they have thousands of verified 5-star reviews. They're accepted by the American Dental Association. So they're literally like the Tesla of toothbrushes. All the celebrities are getting on board with them. Like they're the newest, hottest thing in the dental world for sure. So that's why we love Quip and why they're backed by over 20,000 dental professionals. Quip starts at just $25. And if you go to getquip.com/milehigher, right now, you'll get your first refill pack for free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/milehigher. Also, we want to thank Bespoke Post for their continued support. When you're constantly on the go, grinding away at the office or hanging out with friends, there's not much time to think about upgrading your style or apartment. That's why it's great getting a new box of awesome from Bespoke Post every month. These guys are out scouting for quality and unique products to send in each box, and now you can experience it too at boxofawesome.com. If you're a guy or even a girl, they have a box for you guys too, but it's really geared towards men. They have really cool, just little gadgets, little items for, smoking, shaving, all that kind of thing. They even have like some fashion stuff, some apparel, things like that. So to get started, visit boxofawesome.com. Just answer a few short questions that will help them get a feel for the boxes that'll be best go with your style, whether in search of the perfect drink, a well-kept pad, or jet setting in style. Bespoke Post improves your life one box at a time. Each box goes for under $50, but has more than $70 worth of unique gear waiting inside for you. The first, anyway, sorry guys, I just lost my place here.
Oh.
My computer just freaked out. But the first of each month, you receive an email with your box details. You have 5 days to change colors, sizes, or add extra goods to your box. If you're not filling that month's box, then simply skip it. From barrel aging kits to limited edition cigars, weekender bags to classy DOP kits, Bespoke Post offers essential goods and guidance for the modern men. To receive 20% off your first subscription box, go to boxofawesome.com and enter code MileHigher at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code MileHigher for 20% off your first box. Bespoke Post theme boxes for guys that give a damn. All right. Water. Speaking of water, I need some water after that one. Jesus.
I love water. Nothing better than a nice cold drink of water when you're really thirsty.
Well, you know why that is.
Because your body's at least 2% dehydrated, and that's why you're thirsty.
And we're fucking made up of like 70 to 90% water, which is kind of baffling, honestly, that we're composed of that.
That is kind of baffling.
And when you think of water, it's literally the lifeblood of the planet. Like the earth is covered by about 70% of water, which I think is for a reason. I mean, I think if you believe that the earth is a living conscious being entity that it's probably has some type of lifeblood to it flowing through it. And what do you know? What is that? It's water. You know, when you look at all of the rivers, like from an aerial map, have you ever looked at like rivers and how they look like veins?
Yeah, they do.
And how they empty into different, you know, lakes and rivers and the oceans, obviously. So it really does look like, you know, the bloodstream for the planet is the oceans, and it's flowing all over the surface. Which water, what's the chemical composition of water?
H2O.
H2O, 1 oxygen atom, 2 hydrogen atoms.
I hate chemistry. Honestly, that's about all I know.
I know those basic atoms, hydrogen, oxygen. But as humans, if we lose as little of 2% of the water in our body, we become thirsty. At 10%, we start to hallucinate. And at 12%, we die.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
God.
That's how much we need it.
Every time you're thirsty, I keep thinking about though, like every time I'm thirsty now, since I learned that, I'm always like, oh my gosh, I got to fill back up that 2%. Like how much do I need? I don't know. It's crazy.
Sometimes I feel like I'm way past 2%. And I'm like, you know, have you ever been at that point where you're almost like hallucinating because you're so thirsty?
I haven't been, but I believe that you have, since you never drink water.
No.
This man is like, how do you
Especially
not drink
at
water?
school, like when I was in high school, it was the worst. I was like the only person that didn't bring a water bottle around. I would go all day without drinking anything.
That's horrible.
Like I wouldn't use the bathroom at all. I before, like when I'd wake up and then I'd literally go through my entire 8-10 hour school day and then maybe drink some water at like basketball practice or something. But if I didn't have practice, then I would wait till I was like home eating dinner. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so thirsty.
I was the girl that like carried around a big Nalgene with like stickers on it and had like lemon and ice and a straw in there. Maybe some stevia.
Yum.
But then they banned water bottles at my school.
Yeah, because fucking kids.
They were bringing in vodka. That's so bizarre to me now. Like when I was a kid, I was like, oh my God, people are bringing in vodka. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, who the fuck brings vodka to class? Like who? Why? Like
why?
Ew.
Why would you want to be
chug back on some fucking vodka? Like how do you even hide that face or the smell? Like my face, I shake when I drink vodka. I like can't even contain it. I like
seriously
shiver.
though. Who's like taking swigs out of their Nalgene with
hell
vodka?
Yeah, getting fucked up in math. Oh yeah. Fractions.
to just get caught by the teacher because your breath reeks of vodka.
Stupid. I don't even know. Like, I'm like, really? So none of us can have fucking water because some idiots want to drink vodka in class.
Yeah, I wonder if schools do. I wonder if schools still like enforce that. Or
yeah, you should let us know, guys. If you're in high school, are you allowed to have water?
Yeah, high school and middle school and stuff. I wonder if you can have water.
Dude, I used to want to bring a Camelback. I used to know kids that brought Camelbacks to class.
That's ridiculous. But as we get older, our daily water intake increases, which is interesting. And it starts at age 30. So if you're not drinking enough water when, you know, you're pre-30, then you got to drink a lot more in order to, because the concentration of water in your body declines at a pretty quick rate. I think that's kind of why you get shriveled up and stuff too.
Why you die?
Yeah.
So like, what if you just drink a shit ton of water? Like what if the key to staying young is to like have an IV that constantly pushes water into you?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Skin like bouncy and shit.
Yeah, I know. It kind of makes sense though, that it would be like that.
So
but
interesting.
What's crazy is that so on the planet, obviously we can't drink salt water, and fresh water is the only type of water that we can drink. And we actually only use about 10% of our freshwater sources because 90% of it is frozen in Antarctica. There's also a lake in Russia that contains about 20% of the world's fresh water. But the problem is like we're wasting all that fresh water because all the Antarctic ice is melting and just going into the ocean, contaminating our water supply. What if we lose that 10% and we have no fresh water and the only way we can, desalinate salt water, but
yeah, can we do that?
We can, but I always hear it's way too expensive. It takes too much energy. Like, I don't know if we found a really
but if we were absolutely dying, if we were a bunch of parched fools, could we do it?
Yeah. If everywhere became like a desert bowl, like wasteland,
yeah, like we still have the ocean.
If we had technology still, I think we could. Yeah. But could it be enough to?
No, I mean, it would be like the richest people get it. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah, not so good.
And the statistics right now, as far as like people have water, there's still like over 2.1 million people that don't have water.
That's so horrible.
At
It's
all.
like, it's so, God, sometimes when you like realize that some people don't even have water, like such a basic
Or clean water.
It feels like a right to me. You know, I've never not had water when I've needed it.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to be talking about like how shitty our tap water is and, you know, the water that we get. But at the end of the day, at least we can drink it and not get sick instantly and die.
Yes.
Versus people in other countries, especially developing countries, that don't have purification systems at all. Like imagine what they drink and sick. Bacteria and everything else.
Well, just when you go to Mexico, like you can get mad diarrhea there.
Yeah, you're told not to drink the water in Mexico.
Yeah, you get sick as fuck.
I mean, is that even true still? Like, I wonder if it's still true. That
I think it is. The whole like Montezuma's revenge thing. You're not supposed to drink the water.
It was like that in other countries we went to as well.
Didn't Brad Paisley just make a song like that? Actually, that was probably like 5 years ago in my head. I like feel like it just came out. Anyway.
But anyway, we absorb a lot of water when we shower and bathe as well.
That's so interesting. I was, I take baths, like a ton of baths.
Then you absorb a lot of water.
Yeah, I probably do absorb a lot of water. And I put magnesium salts in there, like extra magnesium Epsom salts. And so that my body can absorb the magnesium. That's actually a way because most people aren't getting enough magnesium, like the majority of us.
Probably me.
Yeah, you definitely aren't. I tried to put the spray on him and he's like, it stings. That stuff I put on your legs, that was magnesium spray.
Oh yeah. I don't like that shit.
I know. It's intense. But yeah.
Which explains so why you pee when you're at the pool.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that?
Every time I'm in the bath, I have to pee so bad. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I've only been in here 20 minutes. Why do I have to? I just peed before I got in here.
It's because you absorb it through the skin and then your, bladder fills up and you're gotta pee.
So interesting.
It is.
We're like SpongeBob.
We are. We really are. We're like a sponge. And that's what's so interesting about it is water is such an essential part of our existence as humans, but just everything that has to do with life at all requires water. And water is the only substance that can be found in all three states, liquid, a solid, and a gas, which is interesting as well. Mm-hmm. It's also the most powerful solvent on Earth. What's really crazy to me is that like the fact that water can travel through plants with like tons and tons of pressure. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Yep. Like you look at plants and if you've never thought of plants as being like a living organism or being like really alive, when you peel back some plants, it looks like they have straight up like veins where these water's flowing up like through.
Straws.
Yeah, straws. Exactly.
Yeah. Depending on the size of the plant too, it's super interesting. I've learned so much I've gotten really into plants in the last year. I'm like a huge nerd. I just spend my time on my phone reading about different plants. And some of them, it's so interesting how they're set up and how the water gets through. And they're also like different. It's amazing. And yeah, like you were saying, the pressure that it can literally how sometimes there'll be like a dandelion, like coming out of the sidewalk, like on a crack or something.
Weeds in general
or
have
coming
that.
Out like kind of towards the side of the road, the asphalt and stuff. It can push its way through because it's the water that's pushing its way through. Yeah, it's creating that pressure behind it to pop through. Like in your yard or like when I go and pull weeds in the yard, I'm like, how the fuck did this plant get through like this weed protector? Yeah. It's like this pretty tough material. Like you need a knife to cut it usually. Yeah. And this plant just like fabric
busted right through it. And you're like, how?
It's amazing.
There's no containing plants. They just always find a way to break through.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
It's really interesting. Like for example, in one seed, there's over 400 atmospheres at the second it is germinated.
That's so interesting. Listen to that again, guys. 400 atmospheres. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's really crazy how much pressure they have behind them. What's also interesting is that water is actually able to sense its surroundings. When foreign objects get close to a molecule, the water will react in a way that the object actually leaves behind their mark in the water, which kind of an example of that is when you jump into a pool, the mark that you leave behind once you go under the water,
or like dropping in like just a water drop, even how it creates like a ripple. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. What's interesting is that back in the 60s in a German lab, there was an assistant who dropped a sealed vial which contained poison into a container of distilled water. She was super embarrassed, so she decided to just leave it. Like this wasn't on purpose, to leave the vial of poison in the water and not say anything. 3 days later, it was discovered because of the fact that the poison was sealed up. They didn't think it would pose any kind of harm. So they used that water to give it to some mice in experiment. So it was a bunch of scientists in a lab just randomly working with water and this chemical or this poison. And they gave this water to the mice and they soon died.
But they were like, how's that possible? Because they still had the poison and it was in the container sealed.
In the vial sealed. Yeah,
so
exactly.
How?
So they decided to test the water and it showed that it was completely clean. So when they actually looked at the water, they expected it to be like, oh, the poison must have leaked out and changed the properties of the water. Yeah. But it was not. It was completely clean. So this meant that somehow the water was able to adopt the properties of the poison without changing its chemical makeup, which is just fucking like magic.
Like so interesting.
Isn't it?
That's really cool.
Which when talking about some of these experiments, like obviously they probably didn't test this over and over and over again, at least as far as what I know. But it is interesting that something like this could even happen in the first place. So it does make you wonder about what's actually happening with water. And this led to the conclusion that water has some type of memory.
That's fascinating.
Many experiments have shown that water makes an imprint of anything that's in the space around it. Water molecules join together in groups and they form little clusters. These clusters would only be able to survive a short amount of time because the molecules are constantly joining a group and leaving a group. However, the structure is able to hold up because a second molecule leaves and another one is coming in. This would make it so that the structure would be able to last a lot longer of a time, which suggests the water is able to record and store information.
Wow.
So it's almost like a memory bank.
That's so fascinating. It definitely gives like a whole new meaning to water being like alive.
It does. I mean, when if it actually has a memory. So some people believe that either information itself is made up of water or information can be stored within water. So it's like, what are some examples of that? And one was, a sculpture that has not been created yet is still present within the clay, but it's there. And obviously somebody's making it, but does that make sense? Like the sculpture is contained within it. Yeah. I don't know. It does to me, it kind of seems a little bit mystic, like water having some type of conscious memory of some sort. Yeah. Which
it definitely gives it like a spiritual sense to it.
Yeah, especially in this particular case. So in Japan, there's an island called Okinawa, and the people there that live on that island live a very long time, like much longer than Americans typically live or any other people in the world. And they believe that, or, some scientists that have studied this island believe that because they drink the water that comes from where all this coral is, which is like 600 million years old, they believe that the coral has imprinted the water with information on longevity. And therefore, when they drink the water, their bodies are receiving that information about longevity from the water itself. And they're basically communicating with one another. So I don't know. It's a really interesting idea for sure. And another kind of example similar to this is back in 2005, a group of scientists went to a specific place in Venezuela called Roraima to get samples of what they believe is the only water on Earth that has never come in human contact. So this is 100% water that's never been touched by humans in any way, shape, or form. So it's completely natural. And they took samples of this water and they actually went back into a lab and took a look at it. And what they found was that compared to regular drinking water, it showed that this water from Roraima had 40,000 times more active energy than regular water.
So interesting.
Which you can test water's energy levels. It does have energy that can be measured.
Wow. That's incredible.
Isn't that interesting?
That really is. I had no idea.
So they discovered that this water from Roraima had a tremendous energy field, and it was just far more active than any sort of water that they were drinking back at home. So this kind of leads you to the idea that if water is alive and truly does have energy to it, that then is transferred to our bodies and to every other living organism, is it possible for water to die? Do you think water can die? If it can live, then can it die?
That's a really hard question. I mean, I guess if we really think it's alive, then it must be able to die as well, right?
Yeah.
Or
and
I guess some things are immortal.
Or you could think of it like the energy levels decreasing to a point that
it's like
there's
useless.
there's no
I don't really know if I want to say that it's dead. Like that just sounds weird, but like de-energized water.
Deactivated or something.
Deactivated.
Right.
That makes more sense to me. Like
than to like deceased dead water. You're like, what?
Yeah. Like uncleansed or something like that. Yeah. Dead doesn't really sound, I get what they're trying to say, but yeah.
But people and researchers that have looked at water and energy levels of water have come to the determination that they believe that water can die if it's treated poorly, which is interesting. And I'll talk about more in a minute. But
it is really interesting.
One of the things that researchers believe attributes to water sort of dying is the fact that if water doesn't remain in its free flowing state or gets moved into an unnatural state, which if you didn't know this, like water moves in a very like circular spiral pattern. It's constantly changing and moving. It's never still. It's never just going in one direction.
Yeah. It's kind of like if it was going down a river, picture all the water molecules in little groups spinning in a
clusters
circle.
Moving around.
So it's a bunch of clusters moving like their own circles. It's so weird.
And when you look at just nature in general and look at everything that is life, you start seeing these spiral patterns show up everywhere else, like in weather, tornadoes, waves. If you see a wave crashing over, how it kind of spirals like that.
Yeah, it does. Seashells.
Yeah. Seashells. I mean, you're getting into like, all of this sacred geometry, Fibonacci sequence. Yeah. Exactly. And it's really interesting that water is just, a piece of that is connected to all these other things, including
in a circle as well.
The galaxy that we live in is a spiral, a clear spiral.
Yeah. Black holes
everything is moving, ever changing.
So interesting.
So it's possible that water is most alive when it's flowing in that natural pattern. And so these researchers believe that when water is, controlled by humans or comes in contact with humans, that we slowly kill it. Because if you didn't know, like where your water comes from when you're at home, it comes through pipes from miles and miles away. And these pipes are all coming in straight lines and at right angles most of the time. They don't like make all these like spiral pipes to keep the water moving in a natural state.
They don't know.
Yeah.
But even if it was a spiral pipe, if it was in a pipe, it'd probably be confined.
It keeps it all together. It keeps all the molecules together. It keeps it.
Even if it was a spiral?
Yeah. If it was, as long as it's spiraling, it has to be moving in it has to be spiraling, but it also has to change directions as well. So it would be a little bit more involved than just having a spiral pipe going underground. Like you would have to spiral, then boom, and then spiral the other way and just keep it going in all these different directions. So the idea is that because it's coming in, in these straight, often right angles, that it's, sort of smashing and getting water molecules are getting broken down. The energy's getting killed essentially. So by the time that your water gets to your cup, it could be pretty much dead at that point. Like there's not any of that active energy that our bodies need left in it. Which I'm
sure a lot of people out there that just can't like think like this are like, what do you mean water's dead? Like what?
It's kind of a weird concept for sure. But if you look at waters, you can actually create crystal formations in water. And when the water forms are healthy and living, there's more hexagonal crystals versus water that's dead that doesn't produce as many.
So it's really energy. Like I just don't like this dead term. It doesn't like make sense to me, but it's de-energized water.
Right. Sure. Yeah. That's
water
exactly what it
lacking
is.
The natural energy that it's supposed to carry that, we're clearly supposed to have since we're made of it.
And that good energy, right? Like crystals and crystals give off good energy. So it's that whole idea. And so when you look at it in the way that it comes to us, some believe that waters actually tap water is containing negative energy. and affecting us negatively.
Yeah. And, you know, I have to say, we drink distilled water. We'll talk about it a lot. Josh got us onto distilled water. And it's like, I used to give him so much shit for it, but now I like can't drink tap water. If I drink tap water, it tastes dead to me. That's actually a good way to explain it. Maybe
that's how I feel.
When I do taste it, it tastes like dead, especially if it's been sitting in a cup, like for even a couple hours.
That's
like if you leave distilled water overnight on your dresser, you can drink it the next morning and it tastes the same. But if you leave tap water, it's like, it tastes horrible after it's been sitting.
Who out there
it's gross,
you know, gets a cup of water at night and then the next morning, like gulps it down, especially if it's like just regular tap water.
Most people chuck what's left of it because it's nasty in the morning.
Yeah. I always did that growing up.
I had no idea when I started drinking distilled water that like when I could still drink it the next morning, I was like, what? That's so weird. It tastes the same. And like we make our own. I hate to be like, oh, we only drink distilled water, but we actually.
But there's reasons for that. And we'll talk about that because, I mean, as you're about to find out, the shit that's in our water, even after it's filtered, and when our cities and, you know, counties tell us that they're cleaning our water before sending it back into our homes, it will fucking shock you. Like what's in it.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. Like we'll run our distiller for just, I don't know, like maybe 4 gallons of water. And after that, there's like this gooey kind of tan, creamy nastiness.
Smells.
It's horrible.
I mean,
it would freak you out. Like I can't believe it's in the water. It's disgusting.
It looks like toxic sludge, honestly.
And I hate to scare people because I know like not everyone's drinking distilled water.
No, I mean, the majority probably are drinking just filtered water from their fridge or,
which is better than tap still.
Any type of purification is going to be better than just straight. But up. I know people that just drink straight tap water and are like, oh, it tastes fine.
The other day I was in the bathtub and I was really fucking thirsty, but I was cold and I didn't want to get out.
You drank out of the tub?
Yeah. No, not out of the tub water. I drank out of the faucet though.
Oh, I thought you took your hands and were like drinking out of your hands.
What do you think's wrong with me? There's soap and shit in there.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But I turned on the faucet and like took a little sip. And,
like a dog.
Yeah, like Lily does. But it was gross. It was fucking disgusting.
Like, I remember as a kid, like drinking out of the garden hose outside, like when it was a hot day, my dad would be like, oh, just take a drink out and I'm drinking it. And I mean, when you haven't had distilled water or, you know, really filtered, purified water, you don't really notice the difference, you know, until you have that. And I hadn't had distilled water yet, really, or I had it a couple times because the whole distilled thing comes from my grandparents. Actually, they've drank distilled water for as long as I can remember. They're very like new agey Eastern medicine. And that was something they learned early on, is that distilled water is one of the best types of water to drink because it is so pure and, you know, doesn't have all that shit in it. So
and his grandma's 90 years old and like just in excellent condition mentally. Seriously. At least her brain is like,
that's the most amazing thing.
Perfectly. She's sharp. Very woke. She also is like, you have to have crystals. Like she knows.
Yeah. She believes in psychics.
But so everything. She passed that on to you and then you got
then I passed it on to you. Cause you used to give me so much shit.
Yeah. Cause I was like, what do you mean? Water is water. It's just water, you brat.
Yeah.
But then once I got used to it, I was like,
and I think once I showed her like all the remnants left over from tap water, cause that was tap water being distilled.
Sick.
It's crazy. So, and the reason why the tap water is so disgusting is because there's over 1,000 man-made chemicals that our bodies filter out of our system with water in our waste. Because once the water from our waste is flushed, it goes through a system that treats the sewer water and then cycles it back to us. That's what a lot of people miss, is like all of the sewage water and everything all goes to the same water treatment plant. And they filter it out and then they, you know, do a few things, throw some chemicals in it, but then they pump it right back to your home. And you could be showering in water that has been, you know, in somebody's toilet 50 times over. And obviously, you know, they're able to clean it to some extent. That's why it's not like brown and disgusting.
Oh my God.
I mean, could you imagine if, you know,
it's sick to think about that though. Ugh.
And I mean, some people do have to bathe and stuff in like dirty water, but all of our water is dirty because all those toxins that we're flushing out into the water, not all of it can be filtered.
So when I'm taking a bath, I'm probably absorbing toxins as well as the magnesium.
Yes, because you're not bathing in distilled water.
Yeah,
so
that would be really.
Yeah,
imagine that. I only bathe in distilled water. Heat my distilled water.
I know you need a huge distiller for that.
Yeah.
God, yeah. So it's a little alarming when you think about like, obviously, I bathe in tap water and, I'm probably
Wow,
absorbing
Josh, you're so
stuff.
human. You're so real.
I know.
You're just one of us.
I know. If it were up to me, I would not. But, there's this debate with water and the dirtiness, and people are, very against, what we're saying because they're like, oh, well, we're all fine. And the levels of any of the toxins are so minimal that they're not going to have an effect on you. But it's like, how do we know that for sure? Right.
Yeah, we don't. They don't think it's going to have an effect on you.
They don't. So as we were talking about, water has this energy, and over time it loses its energy. And, people believe that water could even have this like conscious side to it where it can sense negative and positive energy, as well as some researchers have looked at if water can speak our language. There's actually been experiments done with water that exposed it to certain words or vibrations. I mean, at the end of the day, it's actually the vibrations that are really affecting the water and the water reacting to it. So the water that was first exposed to the word arigato, which is Japanese for thank you. And after it was exposed to the words you fool, it was when the water was given a positive word, it created beautiful crystals, but not when the negative word was said. So
how does it know our language though?
Well, we don't know. I mean, we don't know why. But when this particular Japanese researcher said a positive affirmation to the water, he got beautiful, beautiful crystals. And then when he said something negative to it, he did not.
So water speaks Japanese.
Apparently. But they did another experiment where they exposed it to different types of music and then froze the water, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because this is legit. Like
I've seen something like
they
this.
played like classical or Beethoven or Mozart to one of them, and you get these beautiful, magnificent ones. It like super detailed crystals. And then when they exposed it to different type of music, it was totally different looking crystals. So it's like, what is happening there?
Plants are the same way. And I wonder if it's because they're mostly water too. That they react really well to classical music, like symphonies and stuff.
It's really cool.
It is really cool how they know the difference.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously I don't think it's like, oh, we like Mozart better than we like, Nickelback, but it's like,
I think Water's a big Nickelback fan, actually.
Hardcore Nickelback. Look at this photograph. No, but I think
don't even.
Every time it makes me laugh.
No.
How did
Doesn't make you laugh.
Oh,
That's
Nickelback.
enough.
Okay. But it's definitely, I think it's definitely the vibrations and the frequencies of that music that the music is, or the plants are really communicating with. This other experiment was really interesting that he did as well. He took 3 glass jars that were filled with rice and water, and each day the scientist would say, thank you to the first jar, you're an idiot to the second jar, and completely ignored the third jar. And after a month, the first jar, the one that he said thank you to, started to ferment and give off a pleasant smell, while the second jar that he's called an idiot turned black. And the third jar that he ignored completely started to rot. So water with rice in it.
Interesting.
So we got 3 different results based upon these verbal affirmations that were made to them.
That is so weird. I want to see the proof of this. That is
I do too. I mean, I think some people would be like, let's repeat that experiment a few times.
I want to see the scientific method on this.
But, if you take it at face value, it is very interesting.
And I don't doubt that it's possible for sure. But that's just, I just think it's weird that they could like how could water speak Japanese and know what word he's saying? Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it can sense the tone or the emotion behind it, the energy behind it. That would make more sense to me than water understanding
that's what we're getting at.
The word.
That's what we're getting at.
Okay.
It's literally the idea that if you speak a positive affirmation, you're sending positive energy to whatever you're saying it to, versus if you do it negatively, it's that whole type of thing. So it's like water's alive, it can receive our energy and vice versa, that type of thing. But one thing that is detrimental to our water and us is the amount of chlorine in our water system.
Oh, fuck.
When we bathe, we are exposed to 10 times the acceptable amount of chlorine.
Fuck.
Which
Seriously?
they throw chlorine in there because it kills the bacteria in the water, but it also removes the oxygen in the water as well.
So we're drinking chlorine too?
Yeah, that's part of what's in the tap water.
Oh my gosh. So
And again,
I get tons of chlorine because I take baths.
Yeah, I mean, again, though, like people are going to be like, well, it's not a ton of chlorine because it's not like a pool. The levels are low enough that we don't even pick them up.
Oh, right. Okay. Because you go in a pool. Like, yeah, right.
A pool is like dump tons of chlorine, though.
Maybe if you were in a pool every single day, you would like get too much chlorine.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, when there's like, it's different. Like we don't drink chlorine water because we know there's a shitload of chlorine in it.
Yeah, I know.
But you can.
But I'm saying like people, like I wonder if like Olympians and people who spend like tons of, Michael Phelps, is he like getting fuck tons of chlorine? Like is the dude full of it?
Oh yeah. He's absorbing tons of it through the skin, I'm sure. For as many hours as he spends in a chlorinated pool, absolutely.
I wonder what that would actually do to you, if that'll have an effect on him at all. Interesting.
It is. It is very interesting. And what's also interesting is the water contamination in our society.
Ugh, so interesting.
Listen to this. More than 65% of the U.S. has unsafe levels of toxic chemicals in drinking water. Levels of widely used class of industrial chemicals linked with liver toxicity, development problems, tumor growth, and hormonal disruptions exceed federally recommended safety levels in public drinking water supplies for 33 states in the U.S., according to researchers at Harvard. The chemical contaminants that infest city water supplies in industrialized nations are abundant, including fluoride, chlorine, and many others. So they're doing this to try and, clean mass amounts of water, try to, reduce tooth decay when talking about fluoride. But when you look at it and you look at it under, a microscope and on a deeper level, you start realizing that the amounts that are being used are very inconsistent and many times are past, even the federal amounts allowed. Like they don't even really know. Cause if you think about it, like how does any of our water treatment plants or systems even know, it's not like they can real time track all the water that's traveling everywhere.
No.
Or regulate it. It's not like they can monitor all of it. So I bet you for sure there's water that's way worse out there than others going through our pipelines and such. But only 91 contaminants are regulated by the Safe Drinking Water Act, yet more than 80,000 chemicals are used within the United States.
Jeez.
According to the EPA. Government and independent scientists have scrutinized thousands of those chemicals in recent decades and identified hundreds associated with the risk of cancer and other diseases at small concentrations in drinking water. Regulated chemicals such as atrazine, triclosan, and metallochlor found in drinking water samples have been linked to serious human and environmental health problems. So like atrazine type of pesticide, like all the pesticides that are being sprayed on the plants to help grow food for us are then going into the soil, getting into the groundwater, which is where we get water from, and into rivers and things like that. So all of those chemicals are flooded back in. Levels of widely used class of industrial chemicals called PFAs exceed federally recommended safety levels in public drinking water supplies. PFAs have been used over the past 60 years in industrial and commercial products ranging from food wrappers to clothing to pots and pans. Literally, PFAs are like in everything. Unfortunately, many of the items that we use just have them in it. We don't even know because we don't even know what the fuck these industrial chemicals are. But these PFAs have been linked with cancer, hormone disruption, high cholesterol, and obesity. Although several major manufacturers have discontinued the use of some PFAs, the chemicals continue to persist in people and wildlife. And drinking waters is one of the main routes through which people can be exposed, unfortunately. What's crazy is that researchers looked at concentrations of 6 types of PFAs in drinking water supplies using data from more than 36,000 water samples collected nationwide by the EPA from 2013 to 2015. They also looked at industrial sites that manufacture or use PFAs, at military Fire training sites, civilian airports where firefighting foam contains PFAS, which are also used at wastewater treatment plants. Discharges from these plants, which are unable to remove PFAS from wastewater by standard treatment methods, could contaminate groundwater. So could the sludge that plants generate, which is frequently used as fertilizer, contain these PFAS? The study found that PFAS were detectable at the minimum reporting levels required by the EPA in 194 out of 4,864 water supplies in 33 states across the United States. Drinking water from 13 states accounted for 75% of the detections. California, New Jersey, North Carolina, Alabama, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Georgia, Minnesota, Arizona, Massachusetts, and Illinois. 66 of the public water suppliers examined that served 6 million people had at least one water sample that measured at or above the EPA safety limit of 70 parts per trillion for 2 types of PFAS. So basically, these PFAS, we do our best to filter them out, but we aren't able to, really control the levels of these chemicals or the remnants of these chemicals that are left over from all of these different uses we have for them. And they are unfortunately getting into the drinking water, and tons of people are potentially drinking water that have these remnants of these industrial chemicals that could affect you long-term health-wise. I mean, like I just said, tumor growth, and these could be really, could explain why, cancer rates are up, why tumors are up, all these different things, why people are just generally unhealthier because the water that we could be drinking could be contaminated more than we even know. Now, this is really crazy, but our water is also radioactive. In the United States alone, more than 170 million people are drinking radioactive water, which again, the controversial part too is people be like, oh, well, it's not enough radioactivity to really have an effect on you or effect on your health. But when you look at the facts a little bit more, you start realizing that it does affect you, and it may just affect you in the long run and in a way that we're not able to measure fully right now. Because the consumption of radioactive elements may increase the risk of cancer, which is obviously why this is so concerning. A particular group, the Environmental Working Group, actually studied nearly 50,000 public water systems in all 50 states. And the group found that the water supply consumed by 170 Americans contained these radioactive elements. In 27 states, water supplies exceeded the EPA's legal limits. So this is affecting all of us because it's elevating our risk of cancers as well as harm to fetal growth and pregnant mothers and brain development. What's crazy is that out of this report as well, they found that the state that had the most radium or radioactivity in its water supply was Texas. So all of you guys living in Texas, I would probably stop drinking the tap water if you're just drinking straight tap water because it could be radioactive. Approximately 80% of residents in Texas has radium in its water supply. Again, a lot of people say, tiny bits of radium in your water is not going to do anything to you. It's not going to hurt you. But I don't know. It seems to be contrary to that. And I also wanted to talk about Flint because that was a huge thing for us as Americans in 2011 in the state of Michigan. They took over Flint, Michigan's, a city or town in Michigan's finances after an audit projected a $25 million deficit, which this is a pretty, middle class, lower income area, blue collar jobs, that kind of thing. So this is not like a rich and wealthy area by any means. But the state of Michigan took over their essentially their whole finances and everything in order to reduce the water fund. The city announced that a new pipeline would be built to deliver water from Lake Huron to Flint. And in 2014, while it was under construction, the city turned to Flint River as a water source. Soon after the switch, though, residents said the water started to look and smell and taste funny, which it did. And there's videos of people like turning on their faucet, and it was like straight like brown and looked just disgusting and so smelled sick. Really terrible.
So terrible.
So the EPA came in, and in 2015, they indicated that there was dangerous levels of lead in the water at residents' home. Unfortunately, which lead consumption is extremely toxic. It can affect the heart, kidneys, and nerves. And the health effects in the children included impaired cognition, behavioral disorders, hearing problems, and delayed puberty, just on the most minimal part of it, which we don't even know what the long-term effects are going to look like for these poor kids that drink this poisoned water.
It's not
is in the
good.
long term. It's not going to be good.
A lot of them are already having like serious trouble.
Yep. Because like lead exposure in children, especially, like really just works against their cognitive development, and they have all sorts of problems learning and problem solving skills. A lot more cases of like ADD and things like that as well. So it's just crazy. But so they had to, go and say, what the hell, government? Why are you giving us this water? Like, what happened? And basically there was like a huge breakdown as far as the oversight on this project and everything. And nobody was really paying attention, and while these people were literally being poisoned. And it's crazy because this is like, I don't even think the problem's completely fixed now. And the government has done very little to rectify this issue. And I mean, they have a lot of explaining to do. Somebody needs to be held accountable for this, which I think like I can't remember if it was a mayor or governor or somebody stepped down, I think, because of it. Mm-hmm. But ultimately there was not justice for this. This is like a poisoning by the government. Not
murder, but in some, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, people probably will die as a result of this water.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, and if you remember Elon Musk, he said he was going to go on and do it himself, go in and build new pipelines and things like that, which I think he's followed through with that promise. But God, can't even imagine, like, even if we bathed in the water like that, our bodies would absorb that lead. If there's fucking lead in the water, we probably wouldn't know. I mean,
yeah.
So bathing, if you're taking a bath filled of lead water, like, can you imagine?
God, that's really freaky.
Makes me want to fucking test the tap water here.
Yeah, we should test.
We should do a test. Here. We'll do a test on it.
Can we do a water test?
Yeah, let's get a water test and test the tap water and see what's in it.
All right.
Because now I'm fucking curious.
Yeah, I want to know what I'm absorbing in the bath. I feel like a SpongeBob in there.
Seriously though. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously a really huge issue. The toxicity of our drinking water is not in a good place, especially for a country like America, where, all of our systems are supposed to be so much better than everywhere else in the world. And what we're going to be talking about next is fluoride and how fluoridated our water is, as opposed to like Europe and other countries around the world where they don't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
And our government's reasons for doing it are very fishy. But before we talk about fluoridation, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Zola. Zola is reinventing the wedding registry and planning process to make the happiest moment in couples' lives even happier. Zola is the easiest way to plan your wedding and register. Join 500,000 couples who've used Zola. Zola takes the stress out of wedding planning with free wedding websites, your dream wedding registry, affordable save the dates and invitations, and easy to planning tools. Conveniently manage everything online and in one place, which saves so much time for couples. And I will second that for sure. Yes. I wish we had used Zola when we did our wedding, because having it all together would be really great. And as opposed to having to use all these different systems and websites and keep track of, which there's a lot more to planning a wedding than I think anybody realizes until you start doing it. And you're like, oh shit.
I planned our whole wedding. Like, it was really me by myself. Like, I didn't have much help from really anyone. Like, you weren't that involved either. And I didn't have a wedding planner or anything. And I really, really relied on having a wedding website situation. I didn't use Zola, but I used a different one, and it was all right. I've heard Zola's a lot better.
Yeah, and the fact that it all integrates in the wet registry and everything else all together.
Yes, right. We didn't have that.
You can literally do it all with Zola.
Yeah, that's what's really nice. It's like, it's a one-stop shop. We had to use we had to do a different one for our registry, which was kind of a pain. But yeah, it's awesome, like, just to have a guest book online. Like, I still get on and check my guest book from my wedding, because I can still access all the addresses, and sometimes I need them. So
it is convenient to save all that stuff and to have that wedding website to look back on as well.
And just to be organized. It helps you connect with vendors, just so much. Planning a wedding is stressful, people.
It is. So
I
to
don't
take
wanna do
that
it
stress
again.
off, start with the free wedding website. It's so easy. Just takes a few minutes to set up. There's tons of different website designs to choose from. Zola makes it easy to personalize your favorite design with all your wedding details. You can add photos, stories, literally any type of information your guests need to know. You can post it on there. You can even put your Zola registry on your wedding website so guests can get all the details they need to buy your wedding, buy for your wedding in one convenient and beautiful place. And then you can build your registry. The Zola store has the widest selection of gifts at different price points. There's something for every guest to give. Guests love free shipping and returns, price matching, and more. Over 500 top brands from OXO and Cuisinart to Sonos and Airbnb, which is cool that they have like their own store where they work with all these brands that you can do. You can have a really wide variety of different items on your registry, which is unique and cool.
That is cool.
So
a new puppy. That would be nice. I'm going to put a puppy on my next registry. Oh, do I ever get a registry again? I guess when I have a baby, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put a puppy on there.
Or we get married again.
Get married again. Hello, everyone. We are getting married again. I guess that's a vow renewal, right?
Yeah.
How many years do you think we have to wait till we do that shit?
30.
Damn, that's a long time. Okay.
But we also have the best completion discount, 20% of remaining gifts on your registry starting right after your big day. To start your free wedding website and also get $50 off your registry, go to zola.com/mile higher. That's spelled zola.com/mile higher to start your free wedding website and get $50 off your registry on Zola. Very cool. We also wanted to thank Third Love for their continued support of the podcast. Kendall, tell us a little bit about Third Love for those that don't know.
Well, I'm currently wearing a Third Love bra right now. And Third Love bras are extremely comfortable. They are also stylish. They come in a bunch of different colors and styles and something for everybody. And I've tried so many different versions of their bras. I've been using their bras now for like over 3 years, maybe even 4. And I really, really like them. They last a really long time. All of mine have lasted through all the years. And what's cool about Third Love is that you can find out what bra size you are, because a lot of women are wearing the wrong bra size. I didn't realize I was wearing a completely wrong size. And because of their test, I found out I was a whole cup smaller than I am. And I got in the right bra because of it, literally because of their website. And I've been a customer way before they've been sponsoring the podcast. I just truly love Third Love. Got to keep
it's
your boobs
convenient
in a
because
nice
they send it to you, right? That's the whole thing, is you don't have to go anywhere to get them. They send them right to your house. Right. You can actually try them on.
Yeah.
And you have 60 days to wear it. You can wash it. You can really like put it to the test before you commit. Right. And what's cool though, is if you do end up having to send it back, they actually donate it to a woman in need.
They
wash it obviously and give it to a woman in need. So
yeah,
I think it's really cool for women to have a company like that out there. So Third Love
test is really cool. Like, it asks you a bunch of different questions. Like, is one pointing up? Is one nipple like going to the left? Like,
everybody's different.
Yeah, it is. Like, some people have 2 different sizes. So
it's like a custom bra, but like affordable and convenient. So
yeah,
all you guys got to do is go to thirdlove.com/mile higher right now to find your perfect fitting bra and get 15% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/mile higher for 15% off today. All right, let's talk about fluoride, which is a very, very controversial thing. I didn't even really realize how controversial it is.
It is.
Because a lot of people kind of just laugh at people like us who are like even questioning that fluoride could be bad for us, or that the fact that, our government and our systems that are in place to provide clean water to us are giving us fluoridated water. So.
Which I'm sure a lot of people didn't even know that there is fluoride in our water put in there.
Yes. And one thing I do want to make very known is that there's 2 different types of fluoride. There's natural fluoride and then there's synthetic fluoride. And what we're taught, obviously natural fluoride that is just a mineral found in rock. Like we have fluorite right here, that is not harmful to us. It's the synthetic fluoride that they use in our water and chemicals, things like that, that is harmful. So we're talking about synthetic fluoride, not just natural fluoride here. So water fluoridation is obviously the practice of adding industrial fluoride chemicals to water for the purpose, that they say, of preventing tooth decay and cavities. And this has been taking place in the US since the 1940s.
It's so weird.
As of May 2000, 42 of the 50 largest U.S. cities had water fluoridation.
Dude, you know what's so interesting is like, I feel like between like 1925 and 1940, like we started getting really controlled, or 1945. Like that's when a lot of
it was the world wars, dude.
Yeah. Was it? You think? Yeah, I guess it could have been. But it seems like that's when we started getting controlled a lot, because that's when they banned marijuana in the 30s. You know, there's like a bunch of things it's just really weird. It seems like that time period is when they started shutting a lot of shit down.
Well, and I mean, if you look at it like from a very open-minded perspective, you could start maybe coming to a realization of, it seems that whoever was truly in charge of the planet at that time, whether it was the different leaders or the leaders of the United States at that time, both president and people we probably didn't even know about, it seems that there was almost like a world domination sort of agenda starting to unfold. And, you know, obviously us Americans were told that it's because we're fighting, you know, either communists or the Nazis, things like that, who are trying to do it. But if you kind of look at the reverse situation there, it could look like we were attempting some type of world domination in a way, the way that we sort of through these world wars spread out, built bases everywhere around the world and put our troops in all these different countries.
Yep.
I mean, the US is in like literally every country. Yeah. We're involved in some way. So the argument could be made that it was really the US. So it's like you said, it's interesting that, you know, the fluoride started all these things, like cut the, you know, psychedelics out, like no, and then get them nothing on mind instead. Opening. Yeah.
Which, as we're going to talk about today, is something that possibly could be closing your mind.
Right. Could be affecting our spirituality. It could be affecting our consciousness, which we will talk about. Your woke bone. That's great. But as of May 2042, of the 50 largest U.S. cities had water fluoridation. In 2010, 66% of all U.S. residents and 74% of U.S. residents with access to community water systems receive fluoridated water, which I want to test our water now because I want to see how much fluoride is in it, or if we're actually getting fluoridated water. But studies show that fluoride in community water systems prevents at least 25% of tooth decay in children and adults, even in an era with widespread availability of fluoride from other sources such as fluoride, toothpaste, and mouthwash. Additionally, it is argued that adding fluoride in our water saves us money. The average lifetime cost per person to fluoridate a water supply is less than the cost of one dental filling. For most cities, every $1 invested in water fluoridation saves $38 in dental treatment costs. So this is kind of the mainstream perspective as to why we fluoridate water, which prevent tooth decay. It's being sold to us as like a prevention mechanism for our teeth, and that ultimately it's going to save us money by saving our teeth from dentist visits and cavities and tooth decay, which I kind of call bullshit on that.
Yeah, like they're that worried about us. Why don't they put some other fucking vitamins in there and shit, like things we need? There's like plenty of things that could really help us.
And why would they stifle like the dental industry from like making shitloads of money from
why wouldn't
people?
They want us to make?
It's really, it's like, maybe.
So, but like, what about people that distill their water? Then they're not getting any fluoride. So their teeth aren't rotting. Your grandma's teeth look great.
No, I know that. Well, that's the whole debate. And even that whole idea of like, they found 25%. Like I've seen different studies that like refute that and say, or refute that and say, refute that and say,
is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like it is
rebuttal?
Too. Yeah. Either one works.
Refute.
But anyway, that whole idea that it reduces tooth decay could just be complete bullshit. Like there's a lot of people that think both sides of that. Mm-hmm. But it is important to note that fluoride is naturally in our water because of different minerals and rocks it comes in contact with. However, our drinking water is treated with something called hydrofluorosilicic acid, a toxic industrial-made waste byproduct created from the production of aluminum, fertilizer, steel, and nuclear industries.
Great.
Which this is like one of the main arguments for there being so much concern around fluoride and us ingesting it. Natural fluoride isn't as much of a concern as the hydrofluorosilicic acid that is added to our water that we consume. Environmental regulations were put in place where pollution control devices were set up in order to capture the contaminants like arsenic, lead, mercury, silicofluoride, and more, including the pollution control devices hydrofluorosilicic acid, so toxic that one needs to wear a full bodysuit and mask to be around it. And yet this is treated in our water. Industrial practices produce millions and millions of gallons of this liquid hazardous waste. It costs these corporations thousands and thousands of dollars per ton of water to neutralize and dispose of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Because of this, they have instead advertised the acid as fluoride, a product to help with teeth health. So basically, the water companies are selling water that essentially contain poison as something that's a health benefit ultimately. Because
I feel like that's like so crossing the line. Like why, like if someone wants fluoride in the water, couldn't they add their own fluoride? I don't know. It seems like why make that decision for people to give us something like that?
I don't understand like why they're not just giving us like pure water. Like why are they adding shit? Obviously to clean it, but before it comes back to us, I mean, we pay so much in taxes and everything else that I feel like it should be their responsibility to really fucking distill it all. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
do something like give us quality.
Spend money on fluoriding it.
And again, like the flip side argument and reason this is controversial is because people are like, well, it's obviously safe to drink because people aren't dropping dead every day and sick every day from tap water. And also people in other countries don't even have clean tap water.
Well, we're not really saying it's like going to kill someone or like get them sick. We haven't really gotten into exactly what people believe happens to you, but it's more like it affects your like cognitive ability and your like consciousness.
It's your health. I mean, at the end of the day, whether, it affects your, pineal gland, which we'll talk about or not, it affects your overall health because these chemicals have been linked to cancer, tumor growth.
People do think that then.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, but there's a debate with people that are, for fluoride or don't care about the fluoride that none of the chemicals that they use or the amounts that are, these trace amounts that we're measuring are enough to truly cause us harm, which I'm like, that just seems like a very naive to look at it.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Like
definitely.
It's still a toxic chemical though.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, the United States, which fluoridates over 70% of its water supplies, has more people drinking fluoridated water than the rest of the world combined. Which is very interesting to me that the U.S. does things seemingly very different when it comes to a lot of our main systems, especially involved with government. Currently, about 372 million people, around 5.7% of the world's population, receive artificially fluoridated water in about 24 countries, including Australia, Canada, Ireland, the US, and the UK. Interesting. That's like all of our allies, right? Direct allies of ours that are in a lot of ways similar to the US in the way that we do things here, or they adopted our ways or vice versa. Interesting.
That is really interesting.
Whereas like other like really advanced nations like Japan, 97% of Western Europe do not fluoridate their water. And yet you look at life expectancy in Japan and it's far greater than ours.
Interesting.
And like you said, my grandma drinks distilled water. She's 90 and super, super healthy. It's like, could there seems like there could be a link there.
And her just like mental like blows me away for 90 years old. Like my grandma, I'm about to go have dinner with her actually. She has Alzheimer's. And so being around Josh's grandma is like so different, which now they're linking, they think, well, some people out there think that Alzheimer's could be due to like eating something or drinking something.
Oh, there's tons of links that they're finding. Yeah, absolutely.
Mad cow disease.
It's weird things too that you wouldn't even expect. God, what did I just see that they found a link with Alzheimer's? There's something weird too. I can't remember. God. There was something that was like super ordinary that we all do that is like linked to Alzheimer's, like directly. It's really, really interesting. But in the United States, the Oral Health Division of the Centers Disease Control Center hails fluoridation as one of the top 10 public health achievements of the 20th century. So basically, the government organization that's apparently has comprehensive data that says that on the flip side, the World Health Organization, so not a US-based organization, has said that there is no discernible difference in tooth decay between the minority of Western nations that fluoridate water and the majority that do not. In fact, tooth decay rates in many non-fluoridated countries are now lower than tooth decay rates in fluoridated ones.
So it shouldn't be done.
So essentially, the idea that, it's helping our teeth and our health is just completely false. I mean, based upon this study. So I don't know. It seems to me that, we're on the right track with this, and, the people that are anti-fluoride are probably right. But fluoridation is an outdated form of mass medication. Unlike all other water treatment processes, fluoridation does not treat the water itself, but the person consuming it. The Food and Drug Administration accepts that fluoride is a drug, not a nutrient, when used to prevent disease. By definition, therefore, fluoridating water is a form of medication.
It's like drugging us.
Yeah, exactly.
Without our permission. That's fucked up.
Which is why most Western European countries have rejected this practice. The public water supply is not an appropriate place to be adding drugs, particularly when fluoride is readily available for individual use in the form of toothpaste. Which, yeah, most toothpaste has some form of fluoride in it, unless you're using like Tom's toothpaste or, a non-fluoride toothpaste, which is a good idea. But
Tom's of
again,
name.
like you said, why aren't they leaving that decision up to us, the individual, to make versus just pumping it into the public water supply?
I mean, people clearly got by for thousands of years without even fluoride in their toothpaste or toothbrushes, period. And I mean, people were still like eating. I mean, people weren't living as long, and, I'm sure their teeth weren't lasting as long, but like, it feels like something that you should be able to make that decision on your own. Like, why is the government that concerned about our teeth?
Right.
It's so weird. Like, when do you
why
guys
are they
give
so
a fuck
concerned about
us?
just our bodies in general? And like,
yeah, I just feel like you could add some type of like vitamins, or if they could add a bunch of vitamins to water if they want to like really help us. I don't know. It's so strange that like fluoride of all things.
And I mean, we're starting to, and I think this is going to only continue, but we're starting to see studies on patients from like the 70s that showed that fluoride exposures resulted in dangerously high bone fluoride levels in dialysis patients and patients with other advanced forms of kidney disease. There's also growing evidence that indicates that fluoridated water, in addition to other sources of daily fluoride exposure, can cause or contribute to a range of serious effects, including arthritis, damage to the developing brain, reduced thyroid function, and possibly osteosarcoma or bone cancer in adolescent adults. The CDC reports that around 40% of Americans have dental fluorosis, a condition referring to changes in the appearance of the tooth enamel from chalky-looking lines and splotches to dark staining and pitting, caused by long-term ingestion of fluoride during the time teeth are forming. Yeah, like, do you remember as a kid going to the dentist and being like, all right, we're going to finish things off with a fluoride rinse?
I used to love the fluoride.
Really?
I was lit for it every time.
They always had the different flavors.
I'd always get banana, and it was so good.
Yeah.
I would like end up sucking it out, and they were like, don't do that.
Yeah. And I think the last time I was at the dentist, I actually brought up fluoride. I think I asked my dentist fluoride because I just, Collective Evolution, I just posted something about it like right before I went in. I was like, fuck it, I'll ask her about it. And she just kind of like laughed at me and was like, oh no.
What'd you ask?
I just was like, is there any risks or dangers to using fluoride? And she just kind of looked at me all weird and like,
probably because she knows the conspiracies and thinks it's stupid.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of medical professionals don't like conspiracies about their profession. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But according to the government, the optimal fluoride level in drinking water to prevent tooth decay should be about 0.7 milligrams of fluoride per liter of water. And they are, which is a controversial amount. And, there's been recommended change because Americans now have access to more sources of fluoride, like we said, mouth rinses and toothpaste, that maybe we can lower that. Like on top of those two other things, the water is fluoridated. So it's interesting that fluoride has never been officially approved by the FDA for the prevention of cavities. Like everything, all these medicines and remedies need a stamp of approval from the FDA, and yet fluoride has never received an official one. Isn't that weird? And it was also officially classified as a neurotoxin, according to The Lancet, which is a weekly peer-reviewed medical journal. It's being placed in the same category as other poisons such as arsenic, lead, and mercury. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like whether or not you're ingesting small levels of fluoride or not, it just seems like if you look at all of the evidence, it's being literally put in the same category as other really lethal poisons. So why are we ingesting it at all? Whether it prevents tooth decay or whatever the fuck they say, it seems really silly. Especially that neurodevelopment disabilities, including ADHD, dyslexia, and other cognitive impairments are now affecting millions of children worldwide in what they call a pandemic of developmental neurotoxicity.
I have both of those.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We don't has a doctor ever told you why you got those?
No, they just said you have it. You're born with it.
Maybe it was that banana fluoride rinse.
Shouldn't have sucked it down.
Did you drink it?
I used to kind of how it'd sit in the tray, I'd kind of suck it out.
Oh man. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe it was.
I got diagnosed young as fuck. I was straight kindergartner.
Did your parents have you drink tap water?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is
our fridge had a little filter thing on it.
Maybe there is a root cause for all of these neurodevelopmental diseases and stuff. Because if you think about it, it's why are we seeing
so much
increase of it? Right.
It's clearly something we're doing.
Something is causing it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's debatable. And that's where the whole vaccine and that gets all really touchy for people because people don't want to consider the fact that things that we've been told for years and years and years that's really helping us could be hurting us or maybe the water that we're drinking.
Imagine the backlash people would have if that was proven that it's been hurting us for a while.
Oh yeah. It would be catastrophic. I mean, people would be super, super pissed. Mm-hmm. It's also important to remember that once fluoride is swallowed, it does not directly and slowly collect in your teeth enamel, but it also collects throughout your body's bones and tissues. You can actually get something called skeletal fluorosis when exposed to too much fluoride. It isn't visible, but it's very difficult to distinguish from arthritis. So not only that, but there's other types of diseases and ailments that you can get from too much fluoride. But one of the most startling facts is that fluoridation has been shown to have worse impacts on those with low incomes.
Yeah, that's the problem here. And that's why I almost felt bad doing this episode because I was like, oh, this is going to make so many people worried about their water and they won't be able to really do anything. Maybe they can't afford to get a distiller or whatever it is.
Or just a water filter. I mean, we'll put a lot of info in the descriptions for you guys so that if you are interested in getting rid of the fluoride in your drinking water, at least there's affordable filters you can buy.
Really?
Yeah. That just filter almost like a Brita type thing.
Oh, okay.
Which Brita might even filter out fluoride, but there's a specific one that I know that has a filter that filters it out. But obviously one of the best ways is distilling because it removes everything from the water. So you 100% know you're getting all the toxins out and everything. Mm-hmm. But I'll put links to that.
You can get these jugs so that if you don't want to get a distiller, you want to buy distilled water, you can get these really big jugs and get them refilled so that you're not wasting plastic.
I don't think you can do that for distilled though, but you can do it for, it's just purified.
Sure really?
Yeah. I wish there was, I would have done it.
Isn't Deep Rock
I've looked everywhere.
Distilled?
No, spring water.
Oh.
Purified. Maybe reverse osmosis, which is also pretty good, but it doesn't do as well as distilled.
Well, it's good to know there's somewhat affordable ways because it is a good investment to invest in something
it's not that expensive
drinking
either.
Every day, you're having every day.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's literally keeping you alive.
Yeah, and
could prolong your life. Which there's been links shown about connections between cancer and fluoride, which you talked about. It can. There's evidence to suggest that fluoride can cause an increased risk of osteosarcoma, which is a type of cancer which has been studied at Harvard actually throughout the years. And many recent studies have compared the rates of osteosarcoma in areas with higher versus lower levels of fluoridation in Great Britain, Ireland, and United States. These studies have not found an increased osteosarcoma in areas of water fluoridation. So there is links and there isn't links. I just think there hasn't been enough studies. There's not enough things being done to really say definitively whether or not long-term fluoridation of water is, directly linked to cancer or not. I just don't think there's been enough studies there, but we are seeing some evidence of that for sure. Now let's get into the conspiracy part of this because this is interesting, and probably a lot of you out there have heard this conspiracy that The government essentially puts fluoride in our water supply in order to negatively affect huge populations, obviously, of people for their own financial gains, and that fluoride is actually a strong tranquilizer in some sense in disguise. And essentially, one of the theories is that the U.S. wants their citizens to basically turn into zombies, right? So,
like sheep.
So essentially, by giving us fluoridated water, it's essentially affecting our pineal gland as well as other parts of our brain and bodies, essentially dumbing down our intelligence and making us zombies, quote unquote, So some believe that big companies such as Kellogg's, Nestle, Crest, and other food companies are all in on it as well. And a lot of these chemical companies are as well, which we talked about. I'm blanking on his name right now. The chemical guy, the five families. It starts with a D. DuPont. Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry. DuPont.
The chemical guy.
The DuPont chemical company and all these other chemicals that are using
one of the five families, if you don't know.
One of these types of chemicals to sort of poison all of us. And, the conspiracy is that, they're trying to control us in one way or another. But according to this particular conspiracy theory, the name of the company with the biggest profit to be made from water fluoridation was Alcoa, Aluminum Company of America. Alcoa had an unlimited supply of toxic waste, a byproduct of aluminum, aka fluoride. At their lab, an Alcoa-sponsored biochemist did a test on rats back in 1939 that showed cavities were reduced with fluoridated water. This means that the public proposal that the U.S. should fluoridate its water supplies wasn't made by a doctor or a dentist, but in fact, it was an industry scientist working for a company that was also threatened by fluoride damage claims. Another part of the theory is that during the Second World War, industrial fluoride pollution increased because of the production and extensive use of Alcoa aluminum in aircraft manufacturing and just all sorts of arms manufacturing during the war. And it was after the Second World War that many governments began to put fluoride in our water supplies to protect people against cavities. And like we said earlier, is that coincidence, or was there some deeper intention in mind that they had? Conspiracy theorists have also argued that it was a communist plot to weaken the American public health. Many have argued from a moral and ethical view that the public haven't chosen to be consuming it, and so it's against individual will.
I think it definitely is.
Which I think it's pretty valid.
Like, how dare they put a drug in our water and then tell us we can't use certain drugs, but then force feed drugs to us.
Right?
It's like the most backward shit. I don't understand.
It really doesn't make sense.
They control everything. It's so annoying.
From an economic standpoint, public money is being used on something without definitive proof of benefits as well. Some dentists and medical professionals have even said fluoridation of water isn't the best way to reduce tooth decay. So it's very controversial. It's not like this is like some unanimous decision by all dentists, 100% proven by science that this is going to increase your teeth's lifespan or enamel or whatever they're proposing at all. I mean, it just seems like very questionable. But the first large fluoridation controversy occurred in Wisconsin in 1950. Fluoridation opponents questioned the ethics, safety, and efficiency of fluoridation. New Zealand was the second country to fluoridate, and similar controversies arose there as well. There are also theories involving claims that fluoridation was motivated by protecting the U.S. atomic bomb program from litigation, that it is part of a communist or New World Order plot to take over the world, of course, that it was pioneered by a German chemical company to make people submissive to those in power, and that behind the scenes it is promoted by the sugary food or phosphate fertilizer or aluminum industries, or that is a smokescreen, or that it is a smokescreen to cover failure to provide dental care to the poor. So again, obviously that's up for your
debate.
Exactly. But outside North America, water fluoridation was adopted in some European countries, but in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Denmark and Sweden banned fluoridation when the government panels found insufficient evidence of safety. And the Netherlands banned water fluoridation when a group of medical practitioners presented evidence that it caused negative effects in a percentage of the population. Additionally, there are conspiracy theories that Hitler gave people in concentration camps fluoride water to keep them docile and unable to resist Nazi power. And a lot of people that are against or fluoride say that this was likely true. And, obviously we don't know because there's no credible evidence to even say that they were given fluoride water, but it is one idea. Ian E. Stevens, a writer for the Australian alternative news magazine Nexus, claims he was told by a chemist and researcher, Charles E. Perkins, who wrote the book The Truth About Water Fluoridation, that the Nazis envisioned a far-reaching plan of mass control and reduce population by using a medication in water that could cause sterility in women.
That
it was part of their world domination plan, essentially, was to fluoridate or, fluoridate the water.
That's really interesting because we have like serious issues with infertility. Like the infertility rates just keep going up. Interesting.
Maybe it has something to do with the fluoride in the water. Maybe. But additionally, numerous studies by Harvard and China Medical University have shown that fluoride may be linked to reduced IQ in children and even suggest that it could be toxic to a developing brain. Fluoride at high levels has been shown to destroy the male reproductive system in rabbits. Oh, poor rabbits. Fluoride has even shown to lower the thyroid function.
It ruins the reproductive system of rabbits if it's in their water.
High levels of fluoride, though. High levels. So not just water now. Well, we got to check our tap water.
You know what? I'm going to switch the bunnies over to distilled water too.
Everybody's drinking distilled here.
Yes.
It's only fair, right?
Yeah, I'm about to go change theirs. What the fuck? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wait, it ruins their reproductive system though?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't want them to reproduce, so that's fine.
Right. In high levels too. We're not talking about low levels, but what's a high level, right?
Yeah.
But another part of the conspiracy is that perhaps the pharma industry is filling our prescription drugs with fluoride and we don't even know it. For example, the antidepressant called Prozac is approximately 30% fluoride by weight and marketed as an antidepressant, even while a major side effect of its use and or withdrawal is suicidal depression. Modern psychiatry often treats depressive disorders as an organic disorder of the brain, targeting serotonin reuptake by any chemical means necessary. Fluoride and fluoxetine, in fact, may accomplish their intended therapeutic effects by poisoning the pineal gland. Perhaps the primary reason why Prozac causes a favorable reaction in those who are treated with it is that it disassociates that person from the psycho-spiritual conflicts that they must normally suppress in order to maintain the appearance of sanity and functionality in society. It is control and not health that is a goal of such treatment. So again, I don't know whether or not that's true or not, but if it is very interesting to think about, especially Prozac, which I don't know if any of you out there who use Prozac. I know it's a very popular antidepressant.
I was put on it at one point. I got off of it because it didn't sit right with my body, but tons of people are on it.
But 30% fluoride, I mean, that's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Kind of scary. So let's talk about how fluoride impacts and fluoride water impacts your pineal gland, which if you don't know what the pineal gland is, you have to travel deep into the center of your brain and you'll find a pine cone shaped gland. It's very small. It's only the size of a grain of rice. But this tiny gland plays an essential role in how we sleep, perform, make decisions, and perceive reality. The pineal gland acts as the body's light meter. It receives light information from the eyes and then sends out hormonal messages to the body.
Oh, interesting.
So it's responsible for the sleep-wake cycle, which is really interesting. A healthy functioning pineal is essential for psychological development.
This is really interesting. Okay, so I've mentioned her before. Shout out to Stephanie. I know she's listening because she listens to every podcast, but she's a subscriber that I've became friends with because she has Cushing's syndrome or Cushing's disease. She has a pineal gland tumor and a pituitary tumor. And she was telling me like one of her biggest symptoms is like the wackiest sleep schedule ever. Like she's like, I sleep at whenever the fuck.
That's like because her, circadian cycle's like all fucked up too. Like that's your whole wake sleep cycle.
Yeah.
And her brain's not interpreting light versus dark. So
Yeah.
it could be the opposite for her, where it's dark and it feels like daytime to her.
Well, she just had it taken out, so hopefully that helps.
Which is crazy because like your pituitary is at the front of the brain, and then in the center behind is the pineal gland. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And like what's really interesting about these glands in general is like science like really doesn't know that much about them. I mean, we don't even know what until recent times, what the physiological function of it was.
Yeah.
And we still don't even totally understand it.
It's
and
pretty much like in the spiritual world, it's kind of considered the third eye.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's third eye.
Because it's like behind your eyebrow, like not right behind it, but like further back in the same spot. Like in the center, but like, it's really interesting. It's like the center of your brain, kind of. Well, kind of. It's just so interesting.
But I mean, and the reason why we even have that information is because it's been a part of mystic traditions and in esoteric schools and different groups all across history. I mean, this is something that's been talked about and known about for a very long time. And so now to know definitively, like the third eye is your pineal gland, is very interesting.
So think about it. Like if the third eye, if it's really your third eye, and this is the area where your consciousness lies, your ability to freely think, intuition,
basically your spiritual exactly.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe we're married. But yeah, it's really odd to think about that could be where everything lies, like such an important part. And so to think that the government could be trying to ruin that part of us, it's kind of like, why do you think they're doing that, dude?
It's very conspiratorial, but
it's kind of interesting.
But it's like, it's possible.
I don't know 100%, but it's compelling for sure.
It's very compelling, and I think it's worth thinking about.
And it makes sense. Like it just makes sense along with everything else that we have discovered.
Well, it especially makes sense to somebody who believes in, the body having a physical connection to the spiritual world. Mm-hmm. People that believe that, intuition is real, psychic abilities come from this part of the brain. A lot of people believe telepathy.
This is why like so many people will literally massage their third eye when they meditate, like massage between their eyebrows, or they'll put like a crystal in between their eyebrows. I've tried it so many times. I've never like really felt like anything crazy, but it does. I mean, I meditate pretty well, so I don't know. It
controls all the different biorhythms of your body too.
Yeah.
It kind of keeps everything in order.
Yes.
The pineal gland's location deep in the brain seems to intimate hidden importance. In the days before its function as a physical eye that could see beyond space-time was discovered, it was considered a mystery linked to superstition and mysticism. Today, it's associated with the sixth chakra. Some theorists believe that fluoride blocks the third eye or this pineal gland.
So fucks up your chakra.
Right. And essentially makes us all...
It's the third eye chakra, right? Your third?
It's the sixth chakra.
But it's called the third eye chakra.
Right. Correct. So the whole idea behind the conspiracy is that the government wants to, because if you think about it and, if you think about people who, aren't as woke to things as you are, you start realizing a lot of people are kind of controlled in many different ways, whether it's the government or, perhaps religion or all these different things and social structures and all these barriers that are put up. And a lot of people are kind of stuck in like a sort of a cycle that has kind of been put forth to them, running the rat race per se, versus people that are, woke and aware to the reality of things and know the bigger picture of things, or have, the spiritual side to them, or in touch with their higher self, inner self. Whatever you want to call it. I mean, I've even heard like the pineal gland be called the seat of the soul. Like it's been nicknamed that. Like perhaps this little gland is responsible for containing our spirit or our soul or the essence of you in it. And our body releases it, at death. Because it's interesting that a lot of people believe that this gland actually produces DMT or dimethyltryptamine, which is a natural compound found in nature, found in your body. It's a neurotransmitter, just like serotonin and melatonin, that is believed to produce higher states of consciousness.
Yes. It's so interesting.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, I guess, studies or like, isn't it, how do we know that it releases when you die sometimes?
I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I think that there must be a way to measure it somehow. I don't know though, but I don't know if they've actually been able to measure that. If we know for sure that's fact, because I don't know that I've seen definitive evidence that shows that your brain, releases DMT when you die. But essentially, people that have had experiences with DMT, which you can actually, it's essentially like a powder. You can smoke it. You can do it through ayahuasca. There's all these different methods to doing DMT, but people that have experienced DMT, a DMT trip per se, have come back with all these profound experiences that sound like higher levels of consciousness, even communicating with otherworldly beings.
What's so interesting is that like people who have near-death experiences also have similar things.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
It's very interesting. And it is naturally occurring in your body. We do know that. So it is possible you have natural trips.
As I talked about in the last episode, my grandfather had a really bad stroke about 3 weeks ago. And he did actually pass away on Saturday the 9th. And it was really hard and everything. But I kept wondering, like, what's going on in his mind right now? Like, because I've heard like crazy people who have had near-death experiences and have come back from it have like such interesting things to say, and they never say anything scary.
No, it's very calm usually.
They never come back and they're like, "Oh, so scary. I was terrified the whole time." No, they like come back and they're like, "It was peaceful. It was this white light. It was warm, loving, it was safe, energy, and love, and blah blah blah."
Totally.
So I don't know. When my grandpa, I literally stood at the end of the bed while he passed away. And I just kept thinking in that moment, like, I hope it's really amazing and peaceful on the other side.
Probably very comforting, honestly. Yeah, doesn't sound bad at all. So. Death doesn't sound bad at all to me. Josh sat alone in the room with my grandpa after he had passed alone. Mm-hmm. And just kind of sat there, and you felt the same thing that I did, that it was warm in there. It was calm. It was peaceful. It wasn't cold and scary. No, that's what I expected it to be. And it wasn't at all.
No, it wasn't. It was very kind of beautiful in a weird, bizarre way.
And to sit with somebody that has passed, it just makes you really, really see clearly, especially for those that believe in something beyond this life, that your body, your physical body, during this life is just so temporary, and it's just a vehicle for, that your true self, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, while you're here and while you're, conscious and alive, in this reality. But it was very comforting, and I just kept thinking about, where he might be and what he might be experiencing, and, what's next, really. I mean, it's such an interesting idea. But to sort of wrap up the fluoride pineal gland stuff, essentially we've found, actually from a British scientist in the 1990s, Jennifer Luke, discovered that by an old age, the pineal gland contains about the same amount of fluoride as teeth. And we now know that the calcification of the pineal gland gets worse with age and can occur in children as young as 2. The accumulation of fluoride forms phosphate crystals, creating a hard shell around the pineal gland called calcification.
Oh, that's so gross.
And you can actually see pictures of people's glands that have been removed with all these crystals around it. And it looks crazy. It looks like it's like kind of swallowing it up and obviously prohibiting its full
supposed to happen.
Effects to it. Yeah. I mean, and that's where the controversy really is too, is like people are like, oh, well, there's tons of people that live their life perfectly normal and they had calcified, pineal glands, but but
maybe they were closed-minded as fuck.
But that's the thing, is these people that are against all of this are not looking at it from any higher level than just like a very scientific, basis of understanding, and not looking at perhaps the spiritual aspect to it, and taking this gland more seriously than they are. So I think it's really interesting. And if you're wondering, like, well, obviously I've been ingesting fluoride and water, drinking water with fluoride. Like, what if my, pineal gland is already calcifying? And chances are all of ours are, calcifying to some extent. But there are some ways that people believe that you can detoxify your pineal gland from the fluoride. 2 primary cases of calcification appear to be the fluoride as well as synthetic calcium.
Causes,
yes, sorry. But it's obviously eliminating your consumption and exposure to fluoride and synthetic calcium will help stop further calcification in your body. Stop drinking the fluoridated water, guys. At least steer clear of tap water. I mean, that's perhaps the easiest way, is if you're drinking tap water, unless you have no other way, or, you can't afford to buy like just a little filter thing, which is not that expensive. Try to do away with that and try drinking alkaline water is actually really good for you. A lot of people have had great results feeling healthier drinking alkaline water, as well as distilled water, which is what we drink. Alkaline water, I think, is just a lot more expensive. It's definitely I believe a fancier version of it, because like distilled water is just like boiling it essentially, to the point where all of the chemicals and toxins get left behind because it steams it, and the steam drops out, collects the steam. It's a long process though. That's the only downside to it. It takes like 2 hours to do a gallon or like half a gallon. So, but yeah, I mean, there's clear negatives to fluoridated water, not only the calcification of the pineal gland, but could cause arthritis, cause kidney disease, could lower your IQ, cause brain damage, harms male and female fertility. Basically all of these different things that could hurt you more than help you. So at the end of the day, I think it should be up to everybody's individual choice whether or not you consume fluoride or fluoridated water. What are your final thoughts on this whole topic of water and fluoridated water?
Well, I seriously do believe that fluoride is put into our water to affect that gland specifically. That is
you
the
believe
intention.
that
I really do believe that.
I think
there's enough evidence,
for sure.
Especially seeing what it does to the gland. Like clearly that's not fucking supposed to happen. Plus, I just think it's bizarre that the government's putting any type of drug in my water without asking. Like, it's bizarre. You should be able to like opt in on this. How come there's no voting on this? How come we don't do a vote to like decide if we want to have fluoride in water or not?
Even reports on what's in the water and stuff like.
Dude, I don't even. People trust the government way too fucking much.
That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
With anybody that we know that doesn't look at things deeper, that's what it comes down to, is that they just trust the government way too much and don't think that they would ever do anything that would harm us directly, or do things that could have some term or long-term effect on us, which is just not true. I mean, you look at the evidence and there's at least enough evidence to have, reasonable doubt on the systems, especially the systems regarding our drinking water and the water that's being pumped into all of our homes. So,
yeah,
it's good to be informed. It's good to know the truth about some of these things, because that way you can make your own decision for yourself and you're not just taking, the government's word for everything. And I mean, that's what we're just trying to do, is just get that information out there. You do what you want with it, whether you're for fluoride or against it. It's totally up to you. We're not trying to push, we're not trying to be anti-fluoride people or trying to force you to drink distilled water. You do whatever you want, but here's the evidence and you take it as you see it. So hopefully you guys found this episode interesting. If you did, like and subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. We really appreciate it. But yeah, we've got tons of great episodes coming for you guys. We got guests coming too, which will be fun. Hopefully you guys like the new studio. If you do, give us a big thumbs up if you're watching. But yeah, we will wrap it up there today, guys. Stay safe
and stay woke.
We'll see you guys next time.